It's a good question. Why is digital marketing so complicated? Because there's an art and a science to converting strangers into customers. There's things that you have to learn across multifacets. And the challenge that most people face is there's so much information out there around how do you convert strangers into customers. And there's differences between tactics and the fundamentals. Tactics come and go, and there are always new tactics. So do I put a little pop-up on my website that says, hey, here's how many people that showed up? Do I use a webinar? Do I use this? Do I try that? Do I try this? There's always these tactics, and people get confused with the idea that a tactic is the reason you grow.
Welcome to episode 154. If you're like me, then you may find that digital marketing is quite complex. Navigating the digital space can be a challenge for business owners looking to boost profits and turn potential customers into loyal ones. Enters Mikael Dia, the founder and CEO of Funnelytics, a software that allows you to visually map and analyze how people flow through your marketing funnels. According to him, when done right, digital marketing is like unlocking a superpower that can help you build, grow, and scale your business. While Mikael is a digital pro, I am a bottleneck pro. And let me prove it to you with my comprehensive ebook, 8 Tactics to Thrive as an Entrepreneur. From cultivating grit to mastering sales, each tactic is accompanied by actionable tips and exercises, empowering you to tackle bottlenecks head on. Download the ebook for free on my website, laurentautin.com/get my ebook. And now let's turn to Mikael. Hey, Mikael, thank you very much for joining me today.
No, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here and have a chat with you.
Good. So we're going to talk about bottlenecks, of course. But first, I want to talk about your business. What are the bottlenecks you help your clients to overcome?
Now, interesting question, because our entire business is centered around bottlenecks. We help people uncover the bottlenecks of their customer journeys. So when they send traffic to their website and people navigate through that website trying to convert, what are those bottlenecks? What's stopping people from converting? What is helping people convert? Visualizing that and helping them understand that is our entire business.
Right. That's interesting. So you've been in digital marketing for 12 years, if I am correct.
Yep.
And you know, digital marketing is huge, right? It's big. It takes a lot of importance for all the companies, I would say. And you hear many different advice from different digital marketing experts. Sometimes those advice are in contradiction with each other. And it sounds sometimes that every expert has their own opinion about what you should or shouldn't do. Yeah. I mean, I know what I'm talking about because I'm reaching out to those experts. Why is it so complicated?
It's a good question. Why is digital marketing so complicated? Because there's an art and a science to converting strangers into customers. There's things that you have to learn across multifacets. And the challenge that most people face is there's so much information out there around how do you convert strangers into customers. And there's differences between tactics and the fundamentals. Tactics come and go, and there are always new tactics. So do I put a little pop-up on my website that says, hey, here's how many people that showed up? Do I use a webinar? Do I use this? Do I try that? Do I try this? There's always these tactics, and people get confused with the idea that a tactic is the reason you grow, right? Tactics, like I said, come and go. You have to understand the fundamentals. And those fundamentals really come down to, I need to capture somebody's attention at the very front. I then need to capture their information. And then I need to communicate with them, nurture them, educate them, and eventually sell them to become a client, right? To become a customer. And if you understand kind of those fundamentals and what you can do across each of these various phases, that's when you can start to simplify that thought process. And then you can start to say, okay, you know what? I understand that this particular tactic fits in the getting somebody's attention side of things. Let me go and test that, right? Because that's what I need to do, is I need to get somebody's attention. So personally, I think that that's the biggest challenge that we face, is we just end up having all of these overloaded number of things in our face. I also think that we conflate marketing with making money online too much. There's a lot of messages out there that says, I made $10,000 a month. I made $20,000 a month.
I made 1 million in 3 months.
whatever it is, right? And it makes it sound as though the tactic or the marketing is what made that happen, because all he did was acquire new customers. It's like, that's not how it works. You know, you're in the business of identifying bottlenecks. You know as much as I do that growing and building a business is not a tactic. There's other components that and to make that happen.
Yeah, that's interesting what you're saying. So how do you tie the customer journey into what you just described?
So fundamentally, it is all about the customer journey. Your job as a business owner and as a marketer and as a salesperson and really the entire organization's purpose is to find a stranger who's ultimately never heard of you before, attract them towards your business because your business has a solution to one of their problems, right? Or to a desire that they're trying to achieve. You're now trying to attract them. Then your job is to then close them and convert them into an actual customer for your business. And then after that, you have to deliver the result, and you have to deliver what it is that you closed them and sold them on, right? So if you think about it less about you and less about your business and more in terms of the customer, well, that means that a person has found your business. So whether it's a blog post, whether it's through an ad, whatever it may be, they clicked on that ad, right? They did that. Then they went and looked at a page and read the content of that page or watched a video, right? After that, they decided, I'm going to go and fill out a form. That's the person, that's the customer going and saying, I'm going to go and do that. Then they receive an email and they decide, I'm going to read the email and I'm going to click on the link. When I land on that page, I'm going to watch this video and I'm going to go and purchase something, right?
Yeah.
That is the journey that person has gone through. And if you don't understand those steps, you really don't understand how you're converting these strangers into customers for your business. So to me, everything we do at Funnelytics ties back to understanding that customer journey, not just having random data, not just understanding that, oh, well, I had a click or 97% of the people who landed on the page bounced. It's, well, okay, but what did the 3% who didn't bounce, where did they go? Did they go to the next step? You know, why did the 97% bounce? Is it because it was too confusing? How do you kind of understand that and tie it back to the journey?
You say something that relates to one of the bottlenecks that I tackle often, especially among startup funders. You said, put yourself, you're talking about customer journey, and you were mentioning you have to put yourself into the customer's shoes. And that's one thing I see many startup funders especially forget to do that. They are lost into their technical solution.
Yep.
And so they look at their product or service from their point of view, instead of looking at it from the customer's point of view.
Yes.
Do you agree with me? Do you see that a lot? Yeah.
100%. It's natural, right? I mean, I don't blame them. It's natural because you're the one designing your product from your point of view. And many times you design a product because you've had the experience and you think that your experience represents everybody's experience, right? Yeah. And it's the only experience that you know. So therefore you kind of design that product or that solution or that service based on how you would want this thing to be solved. And then you forget to start taking some feedback and realizing that, oh, not everybody's like you. And people think about things differently and they approach it differently and all that stuff. So you really need to, you need to take the time to sit back and say, okay, actually, maybe I don't represent the consensus or the average. So let's go and watch how these people do. Let's gather some data of what they do. Let's have some conversations with their process and what they do. And that's when you're going to start to see some bottlenecks in your own product or your service and that user experience that you're trying to design for them. So totally agree.
Whose job is it to do that? Because I'm talking about that because what I see also is, when you're a small company,
yep,
everybody is involved. Everybody does a little bit of everything, and of course, the co-founders are very much involved in understanding the clients or trying to understand the clients.
Yep.
But as the company grows, what you see is that less and less people talk to the customers.
Yep.
And so I'm really wondering, is it the job of understanding the customers? Is that does it belong to a specific category of people, like salespeople, or should it be something that everybody in the company do?
I think there's ranks in terms of who needs to understand the customer more than others. So does the HR department need to understand customers as much as the salespeople? No, of course not. So there's different levels, but I mean, fundamentally, anybody who touches the customer should understand the customer, not just based on where the customer is at once they're interacting with the customer, but across that entire journey. Where do we start with the customer? Where do we take them? So typically, you're going to see that across marketing, sales, and success, right? Those three core departments where marketing is trying to bring in customers, sales is trying to turn them into actual customers, and success is trying to fulfill on what it is. And, you call that kind of RevOps in our world. HubSpot kind of focuses their entire business around this. That's where that CRM lives. If you aren't aligned around that customer within those three categories, then I think you're going to have a lot of challenge. So fundamentally, anybody who is within those three departments and everybody above it who basically is responsible for the success of those departments, including the CEO, including the COO, they need to understand that. I would say everybody in the C-suite, because if you think about the business is a culmination or a sum of the number of customers that you have and how much those customers pay you. Mm-hmm. Right? Whether it's a recurring model or it's a one-time, that's just basically your money. Your money comes from those things. So with that said, now you have to, when you think about finance and you think about projections, well, okay, if we're going to start thinking about revenue, who is our best customer? What are they? Who pays us the most? Why do they pay us the most, right? So if I don't understand that, how can I make decisions as to, do we move in this direction or do we move in this direction?
And sometimes I feel, though, that all these, the bigger the company, the less they want to talk to me, the customer.
It's true.
It becomes very, because I understand, you want to scale, of course, so you want to automate the processes, but I feel that many companies forget that behind, on the other side, there is a human being who actually clicks on the buy button.
Yes. You know why? It's because of what you've just said. Your entire business and everything you talk about is removing the bottleneck, right? Especially as a CEO. And the way you remove the bottleneck is you create processes and you create systems and you operate those systems. And now you understand the systems strictly based on metrics and whether or not the machine is green, yellow, red. Is it working? Is it not working? The minute you get feedback from the outside, meaning let's say you speak to a customer and that customer says, man, I'm really missing this feature, and that customer churns. Well, is that feedback valuable, or is it just something that is going to disrupt the system? So if basically you find that customer is actually not my ideal customer, and I now decide to build something because I want to make that customer happy, or I want to start going after that, I'm breaking the system and I'm building a new part of the system. So I'm adding more to this engine that is already kind of operating. Now, if I know that these customers, my ideal customers, are satisfied, they're sticking, they're happy, and really it works, then do I need to speak to the customer? Well, the customer is already served. We've already done all of that work in order to make sure that we can attract, close, deliver, and retain that customer. They're super satisfied. So speaking to them doesn't give me any new information to optimize that core engine, right? At least not on a one-on-one level in that sense. So it's hard to remove yourself and not be a bottleneck when you're constantly getting new feedback and new information from customers, because your tendency is to take that feedback and act on it, right? But sometimes you shouldn't, because it's not your job, especially as a CEO, right? You get to a stage where it's like, okay, the machine operates, and then you come back and you're like, man, I got these really cool ideas because I just spoke to these 5 customers. I think we should build this. And then the team's like, wait a minute, you're creating chaos in the business. And that's happened to me many, many times, just creating a lot of chaos because I'm not letting the machine operate. Instead, I'm trying to improve or add things or whatever it may be.
Yeah, you're making emotional decisions based on one thing that you've learned. But to go back to what you were saying, I understand that. I'm a customer. You don't need to talk to me all the time. I'm happy because I've been paying and I renew until the day I churn.
Yep.
And that most of the time, it is my understanding that most of the companies don't understand, don't anticipate, me churning.
Yes.
So what can they do better?
Well, there's a lot of reasons for churn. There's a lot of reasons why somebody may churn, and you can't keep a customer really forever. I mean, there will always be more new things that customer's needs evolve. Maybe you churned because you outgrew the business. Maybe you churned because you had to downsize, or let's say you're using HubSpot. It's not because I don't like HubSpot, but HubSpot isn't designed for bigger businesses or smaller businesses, let's say, right? Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you are using ActiveCampaign or whatever platform you're using. They understand who their customer is. They've built a machine that is there to serve that customer. And then you as a customer may have evolved beyond that, or your circumstances may have changed, and therefore you need to switch and you end up churning. So I think what's really, really important going back to as a business is that product market fit, right? Understanding where is our product market fit? Who do we serve? Because we can't serve everybody across the lifespan of their entire life, right? That's just not the reality of it. So understanding that and realizing that, and right now I'm thinking very much in software terms, but still understanding that even if you're an education business, you can't just sit there and say, well, I've churned because, hey, let's say I join a mastermind as an example. and I've now spent a year in that mastermind, and I'm supposed to renew. But in that year, I've grown and I'm beyond.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to renew because it doesn't serve me anymore, right?
Yeah.
Well, does that mean that the business should adapt and get that feedback? Well, of course they should get that feedback. Should they act on it? Yeah, maybe. Maybe they should build a new program that serves me at the next level and helps me solve those problems, but maybe not. Maybe that's not the business they're in, right? So the feedback is extremely important. You should gather it, but should you act on it all the time? Depends.
Okay. But I like what you said. Collect the feedback, but depending on what it is, analyze it, decide to act on it or not.
Yep.
But at least collect the feedback.
100%.
Yeah. Great. A lot of common sense here, Mikael. Good. I like it. Let's get into go on, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say it's at the end of the day, it's I heard a quote one time that really resonated with me. Building a business is simple. It's just not easy.
Yeah. That's a good one.
No, but it's true, right? Like this common sense stuff. It's like, yeah, of course it makes sense. Like it's simple. Yeah, collect feedback.
Yeah,
but it's not easy. It's not easy to act on it. It's not easy to know what to do next. But the formula is not complicated.
Yes, my favorite question to my clients when I'm in a coaching, having a coaching conversation with them is, what are you waiting for? Most of the time, they are not waiting for anything. They already have the answer.
Yep.
Common sense.
Yep.
But somehow they're stuck because they become the bottleneck.
Yep. Totally.
So what about you? Let's talk about you, the entrepreneur. Are you the bottleneck right now?
According to your score, I am.
Yes.
According to your score, I am. Yeah, I think we're at a stage in our company where we've had to make a lot of pivots, a lot of changes. We've tested a lot of things. I've tried to remove myself as the bottleneck multiple times, and I have in different parts of the company. However, as we continue to find product market fit as a business, like finding product market fit is one of the most challenging things, especially in SaaS, I find, because you're building something that every time you're getting feedback, it takes time to implement that feedback because you're building software versus, like, let's say I'm doing a coaching program. Cool. I can readjust within a week what my next training is going to talk about based on the feedback, right? It's much simpler. Or if you have a service, same thing. Like it's much easier to adapt. But let's say you're in the manufacturing space and you build physical products. It's like that feedback requires me to then retool my thing and figure out something else and adapt that. And I think with Funnelytics and software in general, but with Funnelytics, we've had a lot of challenges understanding who is our ideal customer and getting to that product market fit, because we attract a lot of different types of businesses into our world, mostly because of our free mapping tool and the way that we kind of allow people to map these customer journeys. So I've found myself playing the role of trying to find product market fit across, the different departments. So on the customer success side, speaking to customers, trying to get that feedback so I can give it back to the developers. But then what happens is, great, developers go 8 weeks, 12 weeks before really that feature is built into a way that makes sense. So over the 12 weeks, what am I doing? Well, I'm going to go and play on the marketing side to figure out, based on that feedback, let's go and reposition this or that, right? And a lot of times, as you're figuring out product market fit, your growth it fluctuates. So yeah, net you're growing. However, churn mixed with new customers creates this kind of up and down flat line type of model, which means that you can't sit there and go and hire a whole bunch of people to remove yourself as the bottleneck, right? So you can create processes, you can put some stuff in place, but at the end of the day, until you can focus on building the machine, it becomes really hard to remove yourself. So I would say that I am 100% the bottleneck at this stage. I would say that I don't mind it per se. Like, I actually quite enjoy figuring and tinkering and doing that. But I do know the consequence of it, which is constant tinkering does not create a machine, right? Constant tinkering creates chaos, to be honest. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but
no, it does. It's the first step of, tackling bottlenecks is self-awareness. And I think you really understand that. You have really developed you're very conscious about it. But it's not your first business,
no.
Right? And you exited one before. So based on the code that really resonates with you, one would think that by now it should be easy. No, here you are. Even after several businesses, you're struggling.
Yep. You know why? Not even though the formula is the same. I've got to attract, I've got to close, I've got to deliver, I've got to retain customers. That's fundamentally the formula of every business. The nuances of each of those pieces, depending on the type of business, is not the same. So when I was running a Mandarin language school, that was completely different when it comes to how do I deliver the result to a client, how do I attract the client, how do I close them, how do I even retain them. Very different than when you're doing it for a software, right? For example, when I was delivering Mandarin lessons, I hired a teacher because I don't speak Mandarin, nor have I ever been to China. We hired a teacher and we rented a room and we basically said, student go here, teacher go there, lessons, done, right? I can't be the bottleneck because I don't even know how to be the bottleneck. I can't even contribute to the deliver aspect. That was that versus...
So you were forced to hire people who could contribute.
I was forced in that sense, right? Same thing when I look at Funnelytics on the software side. I was forced to hire people to build the product because I'm not a developer, right? I'm not a coder. However, the people building the product don't know what the product needs to do per se. That's where you end up, having to have the feedback. And that's where you say, okay, well, do I build this? Do I build that? Et cetera, and prioritizing. And that is very, very different than doing it for a Mandarin school, as an example, right? On the retention side, well, what does it take to retain somebody who wants to learn Mandarin? How dedicated are they to learning Mandarin, and is the teacher good? It's that simple. And come back lesson after lesson, week after week, month after month. What does it take to retain somebody who starts a free trial to your software? Well, that's a different ballgame. It takes completely understanding the user experience and the user flow and figuring out what is the metric that actually creates the activation and gets them to that aha moment, and learning from that and building that. And that is a much different process. The outcome is the same. I want to retain that customer. The steps are different. So it's a different puzzle. So to me, the reason we struggled and it's interesting because we've had a lot of success with Funnelytics, and we've also internally struggled significantly. So on the surface, on the outside, it seems like, hey, Funnelytics, it's the de facto mapping tool and all that stuff. But internally, it's just about figuring out how this puzzle fits together across these four various stages of, okay, am I attracting the right customers? Am I closing them in a way that makes actual sense and allows us? Am I delivering? Am I retaining? And what are the pieces and how does that all fit together? That's the challenge. And I think that's why a lot of CEOs or founders, let's call them, are the bottleneck, is because they're the ones who fundamentally have to figure out a lot of these pieces, right? And if not, then that means they're hiring other people to figure it out for them. And that could be challenging, right? That could be challenging to hire somebody to figure out how to do all this across the board. So
yeah, because you have to let go.
You have to let go, for sure. And but it's not just about letting go. It's about also realizing that not everyone is as bought in as you will be as the founder, right? And letting go costs money. And when you let go, so I'll give you an example. We raised our first round of funding in Funnelytics in April 2020, and then we raised an extension round afterwards in January 2022. And when we raised that first round of funding, it was really to build Funnelytics 2.0. So Funnelytics 1.0 was growing really rapidly. We were, within a few months, less than 10 months, we were at $1 million in ARR, and we were growing. But then we started stagnating, and we started seeing a lot of bugs and a lot of scalability issues in the way we built Funnelytics 1.0. Just the technology was not scalable by any means. So we decided to invest in building Funnelytics 2.0. And as we were building Funnelytics 2.0, now we were figuring out, okay, well, how do we expand? How do we grow? So because we're building this new tool over here, so our engineers are over on the side building this thing that nobody's going to use for a long time. This thing is currently live and it's working, but not really, because there's some bugs and some issues that we can't scale. So do we put engineers to keep fixing this one while we're trying to build this new one over here? Well, that's kind of waste resources. So instead, what we did is we said, okay, well, let's take some of this money and let's go and start building the operational side of things. Let's hire our marketing person. Let's hire our sales. Start thinking about these pieces. But what ends up happening is, if this product isn't fully working, then guess what? All of those people are overhead costs that start piling up and start creating burn. And as you burn money, now all of a sudden the runway gets shorter, and you get to a stage where, okay, well, we've got to make some decisions. So with Funnelytics, what happened was, in 2022, we were a few months shy of launching our 2.0 product. We raised another round, and basically we went all in, right? Now, here was the issue. We launched Funnelytics 2.0, and it was great. However, there were still a few things that we needed to improve as we started onboarding clients, as with any product, right? But whose responsibility is it to figure out how to set all of this stuff up? Is it the CEO's responsibility or the founders? Is it the employees that you just hired when you're still burning capital? Is it basically you going and saying, hey guys, go and figure out how to solve all of these problems across the board. And you as the product guy, you need to solve this problem. And you as the sales guy, you need to solve this problem. Well, there's got to be that consistency across everything, which means that you as the CEO, until the machine is built, you're playing in all of these components. Mm-hmm. You're playing on the product side, you're playing on the success side, you're playing on the operations side. You're trying to create that uniformity. With us, what ended up happening is we unfortunately burned through the money too quickly. Our growth wasn't fast enough for us to raise the next round, and it put us in this situation where we had to cut and we had to kind of take a bit of a step back. But it's a challenge, right? You can't just hire more people when the revenue doesn't add up or the revenue doesn't catch up, right? That's the one thing that is that I regret. Not I regret. That's the one thing that the VC world doesn't help you with is you one day you're bootstrapped and you're struggling to kind of just make some profit. The next morning you have $3 million in a bank account. And it's like, but now go and start hiring, grow, right?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Let's go and hire this person, and let's deploy this capital here and there. And then 18 months later, you're like, oh, wait, we didn't work the way I thought it was. So what do I do now? Well, that's basically what happens in the VC world. So, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for being honest about your struggle. And this is a story that I have heard before from other funders. What would be your one practical recommendation to other funders?
Start from the back. And here's what I mean by that. It's very, very easy. I'm a marketer. So remember, I kind of mentioned these 4 phases: attract, close, deliver, retain. By nature, I think in that sequence: attract, close, deliver, retain. So let's think about what this thing is going to do. Let's create some really cool marketing around it. Let's get some people attracted. And then let's go and come up with a really solid offer and irresistible offer. Let's get them to buy, right? And then let's figure out how to deliver that, and then let's figure out how to retain. That is a very, very challenging thing, because the retention side of things is really where your business scales and grows. You have to deliver and you have to retain. The closing and the attracting is a byproduct of having a really, really solid product or service that delivers on what it is that you promised and consistently delivers and retains your clients. So I would start backwards. I would do everything I can, first and foremost, to build a product that I know retains 10 of the exact same type of customer, right? Product market fit. They love it. They want to use it. They're consistently using it. And I wouldn't spend any resource at all until that is accomplished. Once I get 10 of the exact same type of customer, and that's key, they have to be the same. It can't just be 10 customers. It has to be 10 of the exact same type of customer who is basically giving you the exact same testimonial in a sense.
Yeah.
Then I would go into, okay, how do I deliver that more consistently? So because I have a software, that's by nature just getting them on, but delivering means I got to onboard them, right? So what does that onboarding to get them to that retention side look like? Can I get 10 people to go through that onboarding in the same way to get to that same output? Then I would go back to close and I would say, okay, how do I now close 10 of those people consistently across the board? And I would work on the marketing and the closing together in that sense. And then I would ramp up. We did it the other way around. When we first started Funnelytics, we ramped up because I figured out I'm a really good marketer. I know how to pitch. I know how to create marketing materials. I know how to create offers. So created an irresistible offer, did the marketing, got a whole lot of people. And then at the bottom, it just started leaking because the product delivered. The product, we weren't retaining. We didn't know how to onboard the right type of customer. We didn't know who they were. So now we had to go back to the drawing board. We still went and raised and did all this and built a new product. Now our product actually solidly delivers for the right types of customers. Now it's about figuring out how do we get the right marketing in place to bring those types of customers. So fundamentally, that is the biggest advice I would give somebody.
Nice, very practical. Thank you, Mikael, for your time. I really enjoy the conversation. Just one more question: how can people contact you?
Oh, the easiest way is LinkedIn. I'm a LinkedIn person more so than anything else. So just check me out on LinkedIn at Mikael Dia. And if you want to look at Funnelytics and use it to map and analyze the performance of your customer journeys, check out funnelytics.io.
Excellent. Again, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks for listening. If you found this episode useful, then you're going to love this. I've put together a free online assessment that I call the Bottleneck Index, which Mikael took. You answer a series of key questions around your working habits, and it gives you your bottleneck score along with some practical recommendations on how to thrive as an entrepreneur. Just visit my website and take it for free. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.